Hi, my name's Corinne Brad, and today I'd like to show you some of the scanning capabilities with the Brother Scan and Cut machine. Now, I'm using the SGX 1200 here, but the scanning capabilities are much the same on all versions of the machine. And they are great news because I'm not the most computer literate person in the world. And for me to be able to draw what I want, scan it into the machine, and the machine cut it out for me is heaven. There's no mucking about with programs that I don't understand. It is very simply the act of drawing exactly what you need, resizing it exactly how you need, cutting it out the size you want. Now, as well as that function, there is a great function where you can just scan a printed object, as long as it's flat and it goes on the mat, and it will directly cut it. And that's how I've done projects such as this card, with a cut-out butterfly, and this open back frame, with the butterflies just clipped on there. And I'll show you how easy it is to do. Now, I went through a period of decoupaging things with vintage images. So I was lucky enough to have a whole drawer full of various butterflies and birds and vintage labels printed on a decent quality copier paper. So I'm just going to take this little bird design, and I'm going to take my mat. And normally to scan objects, I would use one relatively new mat that didn't have any background marks on it, because if you're scanning to save it to the memory, you need to get rid of all those background marks, otherwise the machine does think you want to cut them. But because I'm actually going to scan this and then cut it out immediately afterwards, I'm going to use my normal mat and just rub this down carefully. So, little bird design, and you've got quite a lot of detail in there, so we'll see how the machine handles it. Feed it in. And it gives you the scanning option. And you can scan it to a USB stick if you want to do work on it later. You can scan it to the cut data in your machine, so you can work on it there and then. Or you can direct cut, which won't save it to the memory, but it will directly cut it. Well, not directly, you have to press the button first. So you want to select the scan and cut machine itself to do the work. You also want to check that your scan area is the right size mat, because you can have the option to go for a bigger mat, but we'll come to that in a minute. Oh, and the other thing, I'm going to have the recognition mode as colour, because if we do it as black and white, some of these paler areas it might not recognise as me wanting to cut them. So we'll OK it, and we'll just start. And the machine will scan that image, process it, show it to you on the screen. And again, the desire is to take your mat out and give yourself some more working room. Don't do that, because you need that mat to be in the same place for it to cut it perfectly. So we'll frame the image so that it doesn't pick up any of the background clutter that's in there. And OK it. And then to double check it's got everything, if you hit the magnifying glass, you can take it up to 200% if you want to be really, really careful. And you can see that it has found the outline of your bird. Now, there are adjustments that you can make to take these bits out of the middle by changing the colour to plus or minus, but that all depends on the colour of your image in the first place. Now, I'm quite happy with that cutout at the minute. It's recognised the pale breast of the bird, the pale part of the log that he's standing on, so I'm quite happy. I don't want to adjust that at all. It's purely choice. So we'll just OK him, I don't want to edit him. I don't want to put an offset line around him. I just want to cut him out as he is. So we'll OK him, select the cut, and start. Now the STX 1200 is actually a very quiet machine. It's also got the advantage of having an automatic blade depth mechanism on it. So instead of having to decide how thick your paper is and how deep you want it to cut, the machine will actually measure it itself and cut it at the perfect height. So it doesn't scar your mat too much, but also it does cut through the material that you're using completely. And it's as quick as that. So we'll OK him and we'll kick the mat out. And it will warn you that when you unload the mat, it will change the position. So it just asks you to double check you actually want to take that off, which I'm happy with that. I can take that out now. And then using the spatula, I can remove the background paper, and then just very carefully, and I am being quite careful with this because this was just printed onto, I'm not even sure if it was 100-gram bond paper, but it was printed onto copier paper, so I don't want to rip it. We're done with that mat for a minute. We'll take our bird, we'll pop him with a little bit of glue onto a piece of vintage paper. Oh. Like so. And then we can mount him now onto a piece of suitable vintage background paper and turn him into a greetings card, or you could just have him as a display piece. But being able to direct cut images like this saves you an awful lot of time with a pair of scissors. And especially if you're doing sort of 3D decoupage the old way, you can now select areas that you want to cut and just mount different images onto background papers just to build up composite images, such as this card. And if your printed images are on sturdier paper, you can have them as freestanding images, or free, not standing because they've been pegged, but you know what I mean. So that's just one of the great things you can do with the Scan and Cut and its scanning capabilities. But if you hang on while I clear this away, I'm going to show you some other stuff that you can do. Okay, so I've just shown you the direct cut function. Now I want to show you the draw your own design and cut it out function. Now I've drawn this design here by hand, and it's a quite simple tropical leaf background. So the Scan and Cut is not just for card making, because you can enlarge your designs so that you can make wall art for your living room. And I was going to add more embellishment to this, but actually I really love it as it stands. It's map paper from an old atlas that I picked up at a car boot sale. It's all right, I picked up 3 copies of it. But you can also resize it so that you can make more extensive wall art or a really big card. And really, you're only limited by the size of your cutting mat. And the great thing with the STX 1200 is it can accommodate this massive 24-inch cutting mat. Now, when I first had this, I was like, well, I've got no room for this, but actually it does take up a lot less room when you're working with it. As long as you can feed it in flat, and as long as you've got room behind you, even if you just lift it up as it comes out the back, you'll be fine. So I'm going to get that out in a sec, because you can scan and you can cut on that large map. and I'll show you the printed design. It's not printed design at all, the hand-drawn design that I've made. Now, I tend to draw my designs out in pencil, and then I'll go over them with about a 0.5 millimetre wide fine line black pen and rub the pencil lines out when the ink is dry. It just makes life much, much easier. Although the machine is capable of picking up less than a black line, I find that that's foolproof for me. It takes the minimum amount of cleaning up and it just works really well. So, I'm going to show you how to scan and cut on the 24-inch mat first of all, so that it's not quite such a scary procedure. As always, keep your acetate sheet because it will stop you picking up dust and hair. Pop your design on here, and this is a relatively new mat, and also this is only 100-gram copy paper. So I'm not going to stick it down too hard because it is only scanning it. So pop it down, feed it into your machine, so I'm going to scan it. I'm going to scan it to the cut data, and then before I do anything else, just pay attention to this line down here where it says scan area 12 by 12 and recognition mode colour. This is from the previous scan that I did. Go into your settings, go back to black and white, and change your mat size to the 12 by 24 and OK it. If you don't do that, the machine will scan down to where it thinks you're going to stop, and then it will go, well, hold on a minute, where's, there's something else here, and it won't quite understand it. If you OK that and start, and we'll let it scan. Just give it a minute to recognise it because there's quite a lot of information on that single piece of paper and the machine needs to recognise every single line. So it's recognised it now. I can take my mat out of here, and because I don't want to directly cut this, it's okay to take it out. And just another quick tip, if you've got a new sticky mat and you're finding that when you're peeling things off it's starting to curve, a great idea is to actually turn it upside down and bend the mat instead of the paper. But if you're going to do that, make sure you put your mat sticky side down on a clean surface and not something like the carpet. I'm just going to cover him back up a minute. I'm going to use him again. And I'm going to put my design to one side. What we'll do is we will scan these templates and we'll put these in the description below the video so that you can actually print them off and scan them into your own machine, or you can save them as a, can't think of the name of the file, SVG file, and use them in the machine. So you can see now I've got my design here. I want to use it just on the plain single line cut. And then what I need to do is I need to just frame this image to get rid of all this background clutter. So because it's on a 24-inch mat, your bottom arrow will be right at the bottom of the mat. So let's move him up here. Let's go back to the top. And we'll move this in to get rid of that clutter. And in here to get rid of that clutter. And it will then show you in a dark black that it's picked up every single little aperture on there. So you can preview it Yeah, that's fine. So we'll OK that. And we'll save it to the machine. It's always worth saving your scanned images to the machine as a fail-safe, because the number of times I've done an image and then I've played around with the image and then I've gone, oh, well, hang on, I want the original image again. But because I've played around with the original image, I've then got to rescan it. So if you ever do something like this and it asks you, and you change it, and then it asks you if you want to put it as a new file or to overwrite the old file, I'd suggest you put it as a new file, so you've always got your original to go back to. So then now what we can do is, because it's in there and it's saved in there, we can go back to the home and delete that pattern, and then you can retrieve your data from the machine, and it's here. This is what we want, so we'll OK him. And then what I want to do is I want to enlarge him to print him out, to cut him out of an A3 sheet. So we'll edit this. We will select the entire thing, because I want to make sure everything goes up and down, and OK it. And we will unify that pattern so that it can be moved left and right with everything all together. If you don't unify it, you'll just touch one area and it will just move that one highlighted area. We'll increase the size of this to as wide as it will let me, 292. Now my sheet of A3 paper, which is this one here, and I'll actually use the brown side of it, is 297 wide when it's portrait. It's doing a width of 292, so I'm just going to take it down to 285. And I'm going to move it across and move it down to make sure that it's central. Now it's given me a height of 424. Now my A3 sheet is actually only 420. So what's going to happen is if I cut it like that, it's going to knock the bottom off. So what we'll do is we'll take this, can't think of the name of it, but it's the dimension button. It's the ratio button. If we undo that ratio button, it means I can take the depth of this down to 410. Let's say 400, just to be on the safe side. And what it's done is it's adjusted the height to width ratio. So instead of it being perfectly A3, it is going to be a little bit squatter. But this is what I had to do on this canvas here. Because this was an imperial measurement canvas, the dimensions of this, you can see, are not anywhere near. It might be almost the width of A3, but the A3 is too long for it, and I wanted to make sure I had an even border all the way around. So it's worth checking the size of the frame that you want to put your project in before you start cutting it, because there's nothing worse than cutting something out and then finding that it's too big or too small. So I'm happy with that size, so I'm going to OK that, and I'm going to OK it again, and I'm going to OK it again. And as far as I'm concerned, I can cut this now. But it's telling me there's no pattern in the effective area. And the reason that is because my cut area is still set to 12 inches square. So you need to go into that and set it to 12 by 24. So the machine knows you're going to put a big mat in there. That's a very important part of the process, because 8 times I must have gone, what have I done wrong? And then I realised what I'd done wrong. And possibly if I'd read the instructions, I wouldn't have done it wrong. So we'll OK that. So it now will let me cut. But obviously before I can cut, And I'm going to place my mat just slightly down from the top edge, because I've noticed on my screen it's just slightly down, and from side to side. Now what you can do is you can do that whole background scan to see exactly where your sheet is. But I'm not too concerned, because even if this isn't quite central, it's very easy just to trim it up with a ruler and scalpel. So he's all stuck down. Feed your mat in, arrow in first, and start. And this is going to take about 7 minutes. So this has nearly finished its cut, and it's just kicking out the mat. Okay it, release the mat, and then the moment of truth. And again, just ease up each piece using the spatula. We've got the vast majority of it off now. So move that to one side a minute. I am going to clean those pieces off the mat. And then let's just show you. You can see how well that's cut out, that design. So that's how you can enlarge it to use it in a big piece like this. And once you have that design, there's nothing stopping you shrinking it down to make a print like this where it's in the background, or a normal greetings card where it's shrunk right down to A6 and then put on a patterned background. But I'm just going to show you now how we get these pieces, these individual pieces. So here are the drawn designs that I've done, which again will be available for you to download so you've got your own. Now I've already scanned these in, and they are saved into my machine's memory. So I'm happy with that cut. I'm just going to return to the home page, because that's the quickest way of getting out of anywhere. Going to my retrieve data, where I've saved all these individual patterns. Here. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to change the size of my cutting area, because I'm going to go back to a 12-inch square mat. So here are my designs on here. And I'm going to do what we call a background scan to make sure that the designs that I cut come out perfectly from the pieces of card that I put in there. This method of doing this saves you having to work out where everything is, and it also means that you can use up all those odd scraps of paper. So let's pop him down here. I've got a strange piece here that I'll pop here. Nice piece of green that I'll run along the top. And a piece of blue I'll put in the middle here. So, rub them all down well and run your background scan. And again, don't be tempted to remove the mat from the front of the machine, because you will need to keep it there. But what you can see on the screen now is those areas where you have your designs. Now, I don't want this one here for today, so I'm just going to get rid of him. I do want this flower, and I want this flower down here. I do want this leaf, but I'm going to want him up there. I'm going to want him up there. And I don't need both of those cheese plant leaves. So, I'll cut this cheese plant out at its normal size from this colour. I'm going to take a couple of flowers. I'm going to reduce them down in size. I'm going to make 4 of them. And I'm just going to arrange them up here. I'm going to take this fern, and what I need to do is I need to rotate him until he looks almost flat. Take him down in size a bit and pop him over there. And the same with this one. Oh, I need to rotate him. Oh, I've just managed to cancel something there. I'll go back to him in a second. Okay, him. Reduce him down in size. So he fits on that little scrap of blue. Let's just take him down a little bit more. That's better. That's what I didn't do. When I just resized this one, I didn't okay it. I just went straight to the cross. Okay. What you can then do is just double check your placement by enlarging the screen. My flowers can probably come a little bit closer together here. Yeah, that's okay. And when you're happy with it, you can cut them out. And there you have it. Remove your mat. And then remove your card pieces. And then just carefully peel them away with your spatula. So with that, you can make yourself quite a large assortment of leaves and flowers from all the odd scraps of card that you've got left over, especially if they're in sort of quite good tropical colours. And that's how you can make up this display on the background of the entire print that we cut out. Now there's just one more thing I want to show you while we have everything here. And that is how to get this greeting here cut perfectly out of this scalloped oval. So if you've got a collection of scrapbook papers, I mean I've got lots of scrapbook papers, you'll quite often find that they've got these sort of journaling card labels. And I don't scrapbook, unfortunately, but I do love scrapbooking papers. So what we'll do, let's just cut this one off because I don't need this one anymore. We'll have the This Is Bananas. And if you just measure, that's about 7 centimetres by 9 centimetres. Pop them the right way up on your mat. Return to your home menu without saving anything. Find a pattern, and we'll use one of the simple shapes. So we'll use a scalloped circle again. Now I said that was 7 centimetres by 9, didn't I? Yeah. So we've got this scalloped circle, which the machine has automatically set to 10 centimetres square. But what you can do is you can release that ratio button and you can set it to 70 mil or 7 centimetres wide. By 9 centimetres deep, and that makes your oval. Now you know that it's going to be, we'll stick in there, but what we'll do is we'll background scan these labels. And start. And then we'll drag our oval up to the label that we want to cut. Now I'm just going to edit this, mainly so that I can enlarge it and look at it closely to check that my scallop circle, come on, is in the right place. And for perfect adjustment, once you can see what you're doing, you can use these direction keys here. So what they will do is they will move your scallop circle across. So I can see there, that's just a tiny bit more there. Because the scallop circle is in black, the area it fills is in red. Now actually, red on orange is not the easiest to see. I don't know whether the camera's picked that up. But in real life, you can actually see what you're doing. I'm just going to move it up a tad, so I can see where the top of the sheet is. Oh yeah, I've got loads more space at the top. So I'm happy with that position. It's central side to side. It's more or less central top to bottom. So we'll OK that. And then cut. And the blade that I use in this for cutting most cardstocks and paper stocks is just a standard blade. And it seems to last a good long time, which is always nice. One thing I will say, if you're ever cutting fabric with your Scan and Cut, which is a whole nother video, try and reserve a blade for fabric and a blade for paper, because just like if you cut card with your fabric scissors, it makes them blunt. You do find that it will lessen the life of your blade if you're trying to cut fabric. I've lost the spatula, there you go. So there is our scalloped design that you can then just pop onto a greetings card. And again, in another video I've shown you how to do the offset function on a shape like this. So while you've still got the shape on your screen, you can edit that, make an offset so you've got a bigger area, and then cut it from another piece of paper. But that's in another demonstration. So I hope that's given you a bit of inspiration as to what you can do and the capabilities of your Scan and Cut. Because I think once you play around with it and once you think, oh, I can do this and I can do that, you will wonder how on earth you ever lived without it. And especially when it means that you can produce pieces of work that aren't just consigned to being put in an envelope. You know, you can make murals for bedrooms, you can cut vinyl with it, you can decorate whole walls with it. The possibilities are only limited by your own imagination. Just double check if you want to use a 24-inch mat, just check that your model of machine will accept a 24-inch mat. The SGX 1200 does, I know the CM 900 does. I'm not 100% sure about the other makes, but they will tell you, and you will see on your screen whether or not it will be able to accept the mat. But again, using that bigger mat, although it's massive and you think, well, what am I going to do with that? You can roll it up for storage and it doesn't hurt it. And it does mean that you can create much bigger banners, A3 pieces of artwork, 12 by 24 pieces of artwork. And you can just go big. Hope you enjoyed that demonstration. I hope you'll come again soon and see us do some more stuff. But until then, keep safe, keep watching, and thank you for having us. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.